Yeah.
Dear friends, let me share the screen first regarding the proposed agenda of today's meeting. Okay, here is the proposed agenda. Firstly, we will hear a presentation from our dear friend Sheila Reger. The topic is the link between basic income and other social justice movements. The second item is, it is in fact third item here, but second item is another presentation by our friend Michelle Gianella from Italy, social media campaigning. Third item is from our dear friend Gerdur Palmadottir from Iceland, and the topic is UBI for Lebanon, United Nations Immediate Action. It's an interesting presentation, I think. It will lead to interesting discussions. And lastly, we can talk about the international collaboration mechanism issues, which we were talking during the last several meetings. Also, we can hear news or reports from the working groups, working group number 10, 24, 51, 52, 53, and 54. And lastly, we can receive news from our dear friends, UBI advocates, and also UBI networks. Do you think it's okay? I mean, do you accept the agenda, or would you like to add or change something? I see that you all agree. So we can start with our dear friend Sheila, and the topic is the link between basic income and other social justice movements. Dear Sheila, yeah, word is yours.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever the case may be. I'm only going to take a very few minutes because I know Michelle and others have more extensive presentations, but this idea that we were talking about came up at the very end of a working group meeting, and Ali kindly asked if I would talk about it a little bit. So I don't know to what extent this may be happening in other countries, but one of the things I find fascinating in Canada over the last 6 months in particular, because of COVID, I think, is that basic income is being picked up by organizations and larger coalitions that are not basic income organizations. So these are self-generated connections to basic income that have come from the outside. So I want to mention just a few examples, and it highlights the sort of Claudia's introduction at the beginning of how much is going on and how busy we all are, because there really is so much. So I want to talk about just 5 things really quickly. So there's an organization in Canada called Lead Now. They're a coalition. They have joined an even larger coalition called Just Recovery, and it's connected to other environmental organizations. They have a set of principles around which they want the government to build a better, future coming out of COVID. I won't go into all the principles, but basically it's, focusing on putting people before profit and, the corporate world, and really focusing on things like health, environmental sustainability. And within that, Lead Now particularly, when it has done recent polling of what issues matter to the people in this organization, and it's very young and very lefty, basic income is supported by something like 92% of the group that is part of this coalition. So that's huge. A second one that is just in very nascent stages is around Black Lives Matter and a coalition of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color that have been, for Black Lives Matter in particular, in Canada. I mean, a lot of the epicenter is in Toronto, where a lot of the Black population is, and it's centered around policing and the kinds of things that you have seen in the United States, that Montreal has, and places in Quebec have equivalents too, but there are like pockets where there are real problems. And a lot of the focus has been on policing. They're now thinking about building larger coalitions and moving towards bigger policy solutions like basic income. So they're hoping I'm hoping that will end up being a centerpiece. The third one is an organization called LEAP that's founded on the basis of Naomi Klein's work. Again, largely around environmental movements, but also about, facing the corporate world kind of thing. They are now working with other organizations, including Food Share, which is another big coalition. And their executive director is also Black and part of Black Lives Matter and a basic income proponent. So all of these things are kind of weaving together in amazing ways. There are a lot of work that was initiated around anti-poverty. Has been kind of strange in Canada because a lot of the poverty industry has not been very supportive of basic income. And that's changing now. And there are other coalitions that include other organizations that are working together and increasingly supporting basic income. The fifth one is interesting. I'm not sure how this is as a network, but it's what's called the Pearson Center, which matters to nobody outside Canada. But it's quite a centrist organization. And it has connections across parties, but it's not part of anything that anybody can accuse of being a radical lefty fringe. And they are increasingly supporting basic income in various ways, helping us do webinars, bringing in different people. We brought a former conservative prime minister in to testify that he supports a basic income now too. So all of this is just building exponentially, and it's incredible. That's it.
Thank you, and very interesting information. Any friend who would like to contribute or ask questions?
I was just thinking, so that this is just confirming what we have been saying, that it's only the people who have introduced themselves or learned about UBI that agree to it. So this just means that these people have finally read something about it. That's why they're all coming in. I think it's brilliant. Thank you.
I think it's that, Gerda, but I also think it's a lot of these people might have been interested and might have read a little bit, but didn't think it was politically possible. So it was just, we're not working on that because it's hopeless.
Yes.
And now, all of a sudden, COVID is going, oh my God, we really need to do something now.
Mm-hmm.
Reinhard?
Yeah, thank you, Sheila, for this interesting presentation. I just have got a question and comment. I don't want to pour water in the wine, but there are lots of supporters of basic income, including Richard Branson in the UK. And basic income can also serve as a way to reduce social protection, because some of the people who are in favor of it are not known for their how shall I say, social concerns, and they may just get rid of everything else. So I would be cautious if certain people support basic income enthusiastically, because there may be a hidden agenda behind it. I don't know whether you are aware. So I'm not always so happy when certain, how shall I say, billionaires, unless I know that they have some other commitments as well, start supporting basic income. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of millionaires in this crowd. I could be wrong, but I think almost everybody is fairly aligned with the kind of messaging that has been coming out from our basic income organizations that very clearly identify the kind of basic income we want. And it's not what you just described.
And you, Claudia, would you like to please?
Sheila, I would just like you to know if you could type in the chat the name of the organizations. So because sometimes when we hear it and when you see how it's written, it's not, it's not the same. So if you could just type them, that'd be great. Just have a reference. Thank you.
Dear friends, I would like to say one thing regarding this issue. In Turkey, a few weeks ago, there was a news in the newspapers. There are too many women movement networks, let's say, And one of them mentioned that citizens' basic income should be there, but it should be allocated to the women first, and then to the rest of the society. So there was interesting discussions. I mean, up to now, we didn't hear anything before from the women movement regarding the basic income. But right now, they started to discuss these issues. And most probably in September, during the Basic Income Week, we will have a kind of Zoom-based panel discussion with a few of the leaders of the women movement. But the point is, these organizations, I mean, not only the women movement, all the others, when they start to support basic income, most of the time they do not consider the whole concept. They consider a part of it, or they do not consider the soul of it, or characteristics, all the characteristics of it. They consider certain part of it, and from that point they do support. But my point is, even it is like this, we should capture them and we should start a discussion, and in the not short run, I mean in the long run, maybe we will have their real support. I mean, at this stage, it's not a real support. It's like a sudden idea coming to their minds, and okay, it works. Let's support this one. But when you talk about the details, then it doesn't fulfill their expectations in their minds. For example, we say that if you give basic income only to women, you will not receive the real positive impact of basic income in the society, because you will pay to certain part of the people, not the other part. So in order to have the full positive impact of the basic income, you have to give to the whole society. Thank you. Please, Claudia.
I think it's the same issue we have regarding the kind of fight between UBI and guaranteed basic income, basic income guarantee. It's always a matter of, do we start it from, you know, for everyone, not everyone, or just a bit everyone, or just aim exactly everyone. I mean, there's always going to be, but of course, right now, women, particularly COVID moment, women are like in dire need because they all have the kids at home, most of them, and they can't afford. So, I mean, it's understandable that they would start to say, oh, it's us first, blah, blah, blah. And the whole society is going to benefit from it, not just them, because they support the family. But yeah, to me, it's like always the same kind of fight. So combat or strength. We're gonna get to the universal at some point for sure. That's what I think about it.
Dear Tony, please.
I think in Canada, the groups that Sheila mentioned are fairly broadly spread across different sectors, different movements, and tend to be progressive and not millionaires. But not only tend to be progressive, are progressive and not millionaires. I think the challenge for us, we're very busy in the basic income movement, and while these other big coalitions are adopting basic income, they're not very, most of the people involved are not very knowledgeable about it. And so the problem for us is that we need to be at their meetings, we need to attend, we need to pay attention and try to address misconceptions, suggestions for actions that really go against the movement's efforts to proceed to implementation. And it's on the one hand, it's extremely exciting, and I agree with Sheila, it's got tremendous potential, but it also makes a lot more work because there's a different kind of education that has to go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Dear Gerda. You are muted, Gerda. Okay.
I'm trying to. Okay, Claudia, it was interesting what you were saying, and you were saying what we somehow we have learned to believe is a natural thing, and that is that we link our lifeline, we have harbored our lifeline in the hands of employment. We should start with disconnecting the two. The states in every single country is responsible for the security of their subjects, and they should be the ones to supply the UBI, as I call the terms of payment of our security, which they have promised. And then the employers, which are the big corporations who many of them manipulate their employees, and the small companies cannot afford their employees. So that is such an insecurity. And just to mention your job as minimum salary to be basic income as such, then it's never going to work. We have to separate the two, and it will be much easier for a much more clearer picture of how companies are run, because they would have to start to sell themselves as companies, as a team players, but not as our lifeline. And I think that is our really big issue that we should do, to separate the two. Otherwise, it's all. That's why we took, for example, out the word the basic how do you call it, incomes in borgaralaun. We in the Scandinavian languages it was UBI for employment, actually, or the salary, UBI salary. So we took that out and we call it the UBI income, because that's a totally different thing. And it's quite easy actually to separate the two, because in most constitutions, I think would be nice to get information about from every country, is stated that the government is responsible for the well-being of their subjects. So this is a term of payment, how they're going to secure that.
Thank you, Gerda. I think Sheila would like to contribute. Please, Sheila.
Yeah, just very quickly, that's fascinating, Gerda, and just following up on what Tony said too, this is one of the big fault lines in Canada, that you've got a huge part of the left progressive gang, and then you've got many in the unions who call themselves progressive and fund what are called progressive think tanks, and they are fighting tooth and nail to hang on to the employment model. I got that right, Tony, right? Like this is one of our biggest challenges.
But it's a very interesting. I think that is the same thing as because the people are hanging on to their own jobs, their own importance, and their own power station as such. But I'm working on a project, or on a writing about the different purpose of unions. And the purpose of the unions is to secure the working place, to secure the contracts, to enable people to add to their education, and to be real help or support to the people who are losing jobs in getting, changing their work possibilities, adding education, and all is finally they don't have to fight for the basic survival. They can fight for minimum salary for delivered jobs, get respect for the job delivered, and it has to be paid accordingly. And that is a much more noble work for the unions than what they are doing today, fighting minimum, to give you a potato and you're happy. That is not what we are after. So I think that if we do it with elegance, we do it in a challenging way, we give them a higher status than they are today, that war is won. I think so. Or we can win it.
Thank you, Gerda. Dear friends, any other contributions regarding Sheila's presentation? Okay, then thank you very much, Sheila. Very interesting. Let's continue with our second item in our agenda, which is another presentation by our dear friend Michelle Gianella, and the topic is social media campaigning.
Michele Gianella from Italy, actually.
I'm sorry, Michele.
No. Everybody, if you're not from Italy, everybody makes a mistake. No worry. So let me just share the screen. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, we are all muted.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Good morning or good evening. My name is Michele Gianella, and I am the responsible for Italy of the European Citizen Initiative for the Unconditional Basic Income. In order to introduce myself better, I would like to start by sharing a little who I am, where I come from, and what I did in the past 9-10 years that led me to do what I'm about to expose today. So the story that brings me here begins some 80 years ago. Besides basic income, I'm also very passionate of the TEDx conferences, which is a popular American format of conferences about technology, entertainment, design. That's what the acronym means. And I attended many of them over the years. One of them was in 2012 in Bologna. And one of the speakers got my attention. He was a young guy called Federico Pistono, who held a talk about technological unemployment. And he had just written a book about it called Robot Will Steal Your Job, But That's Okay. We talked a little after the conference. He shared with me an excerpt of the book. I became very impressed with it. And when I knew that there was no Italian translation of that book yet, I decided together with his sister to volunteer to prepare an Italian edition one. So I became, that book blew me away, got me interested in the topic of the technological unemployment, and got me started started my interest into what seemed to be the most obvious, the most sensible solution to that, which was indeed the basic income. So I started looking for, on the social network about the topic. I started getting friendship from people who was already in the field, and in September of 2013, the year later, I attended the meeting in Berlin. That sort of marked the half of the first European Citizens Initiative on the topic, which I was not yet aware of. But it was in that very moment that I became aware that was such a tool in general of the European Citizen Initiative, and one in particular on the topic. I did my best, of course, to help Italy succeed, but there had been a number of problems, as many of you know, and sadly the ECI failed. But in the meanwhile, I basically joined the network of basic income supporters across Europe. We stayed in touch. And when last year I heard that a new European Citizens Initiative was being held, I immediately decided to join in. But there was a problem, a personal problem. My family and I, we are industrial paint manufacturer, which is especially product for the energy sector. The energy sector is considered strategic for the Italian government, so I had no right to social distances, and I have very little time. And as a consequence, I find myself around April and May with a community to build in a country like Italy, which is rather hostile to the topic, as we will see later if you want, and very little free time to do so. So I had to find a system to build a community, to build engagement with little marginal effort. In other words, I have to design a team building national team building social media strategy as automated as possible. And what I'm about to share you today is the result of what I did so far. So let me explain first what I did. I noticed that we were approaching the deadline of 100 days before the very start of the signature collection, about 55 days ago. So it came to me an idea. What about creating 100 images with 100 days to go, 99 days to go, 98, 97, 96, and so on all the way, every day at the same hour, in order to create a momentum, in order to build a moment among the community, and in order to raise the expectation for when the day of the signature collection would come. And that's exactly what I did. I looked around for some software web-based tool, and I find this one in particular that fit my bill. That basically allow me to build a personalized image and basically create a series of that very quickly. Then I created a series of this picture, a series of relative description of the images, and then I uploaded them in an automated way, as we will see later on. And that was a first series of content that is still going on today. I started with 100 days to go, and after 10 days, after every major milestone, like 10 days, I decided to share this content, this image, not only among the Italian Facebook groups on the topic, but also on the European ones. So if you subscribe to a group like Unconditional Basic Income for Europe, you should have seen 190, 80, 70, and whatnot. Now that we have passed the 50, I will start posting it every 5 days, and I will post them every day from day 10 to day 1. After the countdown, I have also decided to provide 3 other streams of content. The first one was the so-called Basic Income Quotes, which is a YouTube channel, but also a Facebook page. I decided to collect them all and provide the Italian translation of these contents. I make basically a selection, and I discover actually that out of 840, 850 that you can download from the internet, the original ones were only 240, 250, less than 1/3. The other ones are duplicates or contain the same sentence, but just with a different graphical design. So I downloaded them all, transcribed the text, and then translated into Italian. And then I also put the spreadsheet of these Basic Income Quotes, and I uploaded on a public folder on the Dropbox platform. Ali already knows that. I think we can disclose this secret now. So he saw it in advance, but both have the intent, the goal of sharing it public in order that people can translate all those sentences and provide a stream of content that can basically go along by itself over the next few months. That Basic Income Quotes is a still image. There are all still image. There is also a rich repository of video content also, and they are mostly provided by two YouTube channels that are called, one is called the Basic Income Visuals, that are basically 1 minute, 2 minutes maximum videos, spoken videos, and the other is Humans versus Machines. I did for this third and fourth stream of content, I did the same thing that I did for Basic Income Quotes. I downloaded them all, and so far I only selected the videos among all of them that are muted, so that they can be posted on Facebook with no translations attached, because they are self-evident. They typically compare a human job versus the same job made with a particular dedicated machine. So that allowed me provide basically this content. But after I finish this job, you have this content locally, stored locally in your machine. You have to find a way to publish on the web, and you have to do, as I said, with little effort. So without posting every day, going online and posting the content, because you might not have the time that very day to do so. So aside of Poster My World, I use another platform. This is called Hootsuite. That is a social media scheduling platform that does exactly that. If you are a social media manager for a living, you might already know that, and it is, and I find it is to be. It comes at a price, sadly, but is also very quite convenient. They do buy it does buy the time you invest on it. And Hootsuite, as we will see later, if we can run a live test, also provides the possibility to upload a so-called batch scheduling campaign. Basically, it's a spreadsheet with the date, the time, the content, and image of the video that you want to upload. You upload it on a single spreadsheet, press a button, upload it, and basically the whole campaign runs along almost by itself. There is another platform that I'm studying right now. So far I haven't used it, but we will be watching it later on. And now I would like, if you are happy to do that, we can try to do an experiment. We can write a live demo if you want, because all the things that I've just told you were done on Facebook. One thing I haven't done so far is uploading a campaign on a Twitter. And if you want to, we can upload a Twitter campaign right before your eyes. And if everything runs fine, you can see what basically I was talking about. Everybody's happy with that? Okay.
Yeah, we are all muted. That's why we couldn't answer.
Okay. So let me just. You should see now my. You should see my web browser now. Do you?
Not yet.
Do you see the web browser?
No, Michelle, you should stop screen share and you should do it again for this separate.
Absolutely. Okay, now you should see my web browser.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfectly. And basically, that's what I'm talking to you. If you see now, these are the posts that you might see in the Unconditional Basic Income for Europe Facebook channel. So,
there you go.
Publisher. These are the schedule of the posts that are already scheduled. Content. Multiple planning. You see in Italian, but believe me, okay. 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 Excuse me. No, sorry, I made a mistake. Publisher. Why doesn't it go now? Damn it, something is going wrong. I knew that. I swear I used it. Okay. Come on. No way, something is going wrong now, no problem. I will stop sharing and get back to the presentation, okay? But I can try it now later, and I will show you that basically with a single spreadsheet, I can post all the content up online.
Thank you.
Excuse me?
Thank you.
Okay, no, but I wish I would do more, just in order to make you sure what I'm talking about. Eccolo qua. Okay. It's basically something like this.
Oh,
Michele, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
My understanding is you are preparing a set of visuals,
yes.
and also it may be video recordings. And then you put them in a folder, and from this folder you put into another software and make a schedule.
Exactly.
And based on the schedule, it is doing or sharing automatically this content.
Exactly.
And but you can do it only in your account, or also you can post to other accounts, other Facebook.
That's another problem. You basically only can do that in your account now. So you can do it in other account if you basically in other, for instance, in other Facebook pages, but only if you have the editor privileges. And that's about it. So at 11 August 2020, at 5 minutes to midnight, I can tell him to post this text. And the very next day, at the very same moment, same text with one lay less. 43, 42, 41, 40, 40, 39, all the way up to the very days of the start of the signature collection. After you have done it, either you have your images stored online with a dedicated URL that you can put here, or you have to manually edit all the post and add for each text the image, the relative image, basically. Okay? And once you've done that, which might take, I don't know, half an hour for these 45 images, basically the Twitter channel will post all those 46 posts all by itself, with no additional effort by your side. Hopefully, people will note the basic income hashtag, will notice it, will retweet it, will make noise, and will spread the voice around. All with a single initial effort by your side. Now let's get back a moment for a presentation. Okay. So that's what I did so far, and this is what can be seen so far. There is also a number of things that are already installed, that are basically already prepared, but the time has not yet come to show them yet. And these are basically these three. The first is ECI UBI metrics. What does it mean, basically? Now I'm making a countdown, 43, 42, 41. People hopefully will get used to it, and they will want something more now that the countdown is over. And what I'm figuring out to do is doing something like ECI UBI campaign day 1, signatures collected over the last 24 hours, signatures collected from the very beginning. See, we will get to the quorum if we keep this pace, yes or no. Is the pace increasing or decreasing? Something like that. Basically, I will basically collect data day by day, and I build the statistics that every day give me enough content to publish a post with all the metrics. The hope is that if statistics are uplifting, people will get excited and will be motivated to express their support even more. Otherwise, if they are not exciting, but they care about unconditional basic income, they will possibly motivated to help and spread the news even louder to make sure that the campaign is ultimately successful. That's for the metrics. Then there are the spoken videos. Human versus machine, both human versus machine and basic income visuals have a number of muted videos which are already scheduled, and there are a number of also spoken ones. I didn't have the time to do it yet, but I set my mind to spend part of my summer to transcribe those texts, which in most of cases can be are very short, like 1-2 minutes each. Share it with the community and translate it personally into Italian. Then, using a series of automated captions, I will probably post them or repost them on YouTube with hard-coded Italian subtitles. And one by one, then, now that I have a translated video and a dedicated URL, they will enter another scheduling, and one day they will, and one every day they will see it. The third stream of contents is the TEDx conferences. Before I got very involved with this ECI on UBI, I spent most of my free time as a translator for the TED Translator conferences. And since I guess 2015, when Rutger Bregman, the Dutch historian, spoke about it, was the first one. There are now on YouTube something like 50 or 55 TEDx conference, 20 minutes each, on basic income, which typically cover the topic very well, and from a very different perspective, because historians have talked about it, economists have talked about it, technologists, engineers have talked about it, and all of them show a particular facet of the elephant. Together they take like 5-6 hours to be watched in full. They will be probably posted in the Italian community one per week, and at the end people will have a sound general knowledge, at the very least, on the topic. Now, in addition of what I have shown and what I have done, but it's just in store, there are also a number of things that so far I failed. I wish I could do eventually, but so far I failed to do, and that's also not just an exposition, but also a call for help, especially for developers or social media managers. The first can be recapitulated in the question, how many friends do my friends have? What do I mean by that? I mean, I have a network of friendship on a social network like Facebook, like 500, 550. And each of my friends has in turn a number of friends of theirs. Some of them have like 30 friends. Some of them have reached the limit of 5,000 friends. So far, I don't have a convenient way to extract the number of friends for each of their friends in order to detect the hub, basically, of the social network. Because if I can find those who have 5,000 friends, I can go to them and say, hey, I have started my signature collection. I have seen that you have like 5,000 connection by your side. If you could help me spread the news, since you have 5,000 friends, the news would spread much faster. I'm trying to build something like this. It's not technically very easy, but as soon as I have news about it, I will try to inform you over the next Zoom meeting. The second thing I like to do is the content mirroring of the Be in Italy Facebook page. Be in Italy, as you can imagine, is the Italian chapter of the Basic Income Earth Networks, and every day they post a load of relevant content for of content that is relevant also for the followers of the 2 Facebook pages I'm managing. And I'd like to build a system that basically reposts automatically on my pages the content that they show up on the Be in Italy page. The third and the last one is the Twitter and Instagram integration. I started doing what I do on Facebook now. I will now start streaming content on Twitter. Now on my Twitter account, you also see you will also see the human versus machine videos and the basic income quotes. I would like to add the countdown and the statistics when the campaign has begun. So it's not the beginning of the story, it's just the end. Some things are still to be polished, but I also obtain a number of interesting results. I will keep you updated with any relevant news, but it's been very exciting to show what I've done so far. And I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail. Very interesting. I mean, yeah, it was very interesting. Is there any questions, dear friends, or any contributions? At the moment, there is no questions, but can I ask a few questions?
Absolutely.
To make it clear, you see, normally somebody may have a Facebook account. Then from this account, they can have new Facebook pages.
Yep.
And also be a member of the Facebook groups.
Yep. Exactly.
So this Facebook account is connected to the certain Facebook pages, and also which he created or she created, and also member of certain Facebook groups. Is it possible to organize this to share in the groups also? For example, assume that I'm a member of, let's say, 50 different basic income related groups.
Yeah.
When I make this scheduling, can I simply share the same content in these 50 different Facebook groups at the same time?
So, the short answer is yes. But there are a number of things that are to be pointed out. The first fundamental problem to fix is that you can even post it in like 100 groups. But you gotta have, as far as I know, with Hootsuite, you gotta have the editor privileges on all of them. One. Second of all,
editor or member?
Excuse me?
Editor privileges or member?
Not just member.
But the members can post.
For instance, I am a member of Unconditional Basic Income for Europe, but I don't have the editor privileges. If I want to post something on Unconditional Basic Income for Europe, I have to do it by hand.
Can I say member with privileges?
I have to in order to automatically post content on Unconditional Basic Income for Europe, as far as I know, because remember, I am a paint manufacturer, not a social media manager. As far as I know, you have to have the editor privileges, not necessarily administrator, but at least editor privileges. Okay. Plus, with my subscription plan, because that's another story. Hootsuite is effective, but it's expensive. It comes at a cost. There are free alternatives, but one has to take the time to delve into one. There are there, but I don't know them. Okay. So one thing that could be interesting to do is see what alternatives are on the web. But okay, that aside, another problem is that there is a cap on the maximum number of posts that can be scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
My subscription plan, with my subscription plan, I can only post like 350 posts per month. So even assuming that I make the heroic effort of getting administrative privileges for 100 Facebook pages, I can only automatically post three posts per month in every single one of them, in order not to exceed the cap of 350. There may be a solution at a higher price. I mean, there are like a professional plan or corporate, I don't know, corporate plan with a tailor offer. But the pre-can solution that they can offer to lower level users are this one. They work. They are very effective. I had a problem and they helped me solve it. But there are things to consider. So one thing I would suggest to do probably is to put all the content that might be relevant for everyone, like images, videos, original text, and whatnot, in a common pool, like a Dropbox folder or G Drive, you name it, whatever you want. And then if you want to build an automated campaign in a particular country or in a particular linguistic community like the English, one person takes the effort of replicating what I do or improving upon what I did on his very community. There can be one that manages us all, at least with prohibitive costs, as far as I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Claudia, please. You are muted, I guess.
Yes, yes. One thing I want to point out is, I've been working as a social media manager for years, and one thing I must say is that it depends on the generations. There's huge differences in how messages are received on social media amongst the different generations.
Sure.
But I must say that for many, massive reposting of stuff can lose efficiency because what people like is personalized information that they feel has been shared by someone they know. So I understand the goal that you're achieving, Michelle, and it's really very valuable for sure. But I personally try to do it more on a smaller scale, but so that's why I will not, join in the effort, because I'm on a different way of doing it. So I think both are great. Both are joining different people. And that's why also it's not possible in groups to do massive sharing, because then, groups would lose their interest actually, if it was possible, because it would be spammed by so many groups and so many people that now it's still owned by the person who posts it. So that's why it's still of interest. So there's a reason why there's those limitations, and you have to kind of work with them. It's just someone to add.
Yeah, sure. I can only share my personal experience. One issue I had with my social media campaigning, especially with the Facebook pages, is that I'm not the owner of none of them. Basically, I have the editor privileges on 2 pages. One is a reddito di base incondizionato Italia, unconditional basic income for Italy, which was started by Silvia Meir, which was basically the poster woman of the previous ECI campaign. And another page is started by the TEDx Bologna organizer, who's also a basic income supporter, the very conference where I met Pistone, the speaker I talked at the beginning. I asked them, please folks, can you merge those 2 groups in one bigger community? So that would make me easier to talk one-to-many. For a number of reasons, they said no. And that forced me, whenever I want to convey a little piece of content to both of them, I basically have to schedule 2 separate costs. And this cost me basically half of the scheduling bandwidth that Hootsuite gives me. But this happens because I don't start from scratch. If you are lucky enough to start from scratch, or at least for a number of people that agree to be as compact as possible, the less channel you have, the more efficient you are. If I understood your question right. Yes, absolutely. I did what I did because I have no choice in that particular mode. That's it.
I just wanted to add, I'm not talking about number of channels, but I'm talking about, or maybe it is, but yeah, I do things manually, which is the main difference, I would say. I used to use Hootsuite for several accounts and stuff like that. Do you think you could get an administrative position for these pages? Because are the administrators very active on those pages? And we're talking about pages, right? Not groups, right? So are they active? Are they like posting stuff regularly?
There's the so-called Pareto laws. 20% of people does 80% of the job.
Well, the person who does the most job should be administrative. The administrator.
Absolutely.
That's. Yeah.
What I noticed so far is these 2 Facebook pages were, in a sense, dormant for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
I did my best to wake them up, and I decently succeeded in that. I mean, I started with 1-2 posts per day, and now regularly get 8-10 posts per day with comments, quality replies, and stuff.
Good.
It's probably, after such a long sleep, let's say, it's probably too early now to decide how many people are genuinely active. I hope that this number will increase over time. There are like 10-20. My hope is that the number of people won't comment, but when the time comes to sign and spread the words, they will. After all, if they bother to subscribe to the group, it's because at least a little they care. I cannot state for sure, but it's just sensible to assume.
Yeah, converting clicks and impression of you know, content
It's a hard
into some, yeah, it's really hard, and it's like it's a magical thing that you don't want to. I mean, myself, I don't go into this because it's like it changes all the time. It's like wanting to control Google's algorithms. It's lots of time to me, but some people do it, but not me. But yeah, I think like the conversion, I go more for visibility. Like, you know, the more seen, the better it is. And like, does it convert into action? Does it convert into involvement? Does it convert it? It's a hard science to figure out. So at least visible. And I would really like to help you on be able to get the administrative role on those pages, because you deserve it. You're working at it. I mean, it's the minimum, and it's not like you're gonna have like it shouldn't be that complicated. So so it's just a matter of presenting things in a way that
even being able to merge them would be a big deal, because at least I could talk 1 to 4 or 5K people. But
yeah,
okay.
but I'm not sure concentrating is the goal on those. I mean, having multiple little pouches of groups sometimes may be more efficient than one huge one. So I understand that they would be resistant to that, and it's a risky way of you know, going at it in discussing with them. But you could say, I forget about that, but I would like to be administrator because I need to do a lot of things and I want to post things and blah blah blah. And you know, if they like the content that you're posting, they should understand right away that it's their interest. It's not like you're going to close it. Yeah, so sorry, I kind of diverged on that.
No. You're right. I guess only time will tell. I cannot state for sure what the sentiment of the whole community is. I can only speak on behalf of the 30, 40 most active people. We will see how the rest of the community behaves when it's time to sign. Because now, when the signature collection starts, their behavior will make a difference. Now I can only say they don't comment, but who knows what it means.
But there are 20,000 different reasons possible why some people would not participate to a petition, be it the title of the petition. You know, like it's there's so much, there's so much criteria. Like, how is the first sentence phrased? How long? How short? Like, there's so many parameters that it's
absolutely
hard to say. Oh, I need to convert like that. It's yeah.
One problem I have when I started posting promoted posts on Facebook, I said unconditional basic income for Europe, and I took for granted that unconditional basic income was the critical part. Instead, I met a lot of opposition from the fact that it is a European thing, because we come from Italy underwent a number of years after a very nationalistic party, the Northern League. You might have heard about it.
Yeah.
It is very, very opposed to Europe. Even the 5-star movement was opposed to Europe in a very early stage.
Yes, I remember.
And now, and now when I started posting unconditional basic income for Europe, they throw at me the worst insult. I was a Euroinomine, okay?
Yes.
Instead of heroin addictive, a Europe addicted.
Yeah.
There is a complete misunderstanding, and you have to spend the time explaining why this is not the case and what not. So it's a hard part, but
can I ask a question? I mean, maybe after Eva Maria. Eva Maria, please.
Yes, I would like to say that this social media subject, this is so endless that actually we should have a training about this. Yes, we need a training.
We can launch a MOOC. Yeah.
Yes.
Eva Maria,
yes.
I was thinking something similar. You see, we have working groups, and there are many. Some of them are still working. Some of them finished their jobs, but some of them are about to start. Why not to establish a working group? We can send a message to the email group. The friends who are experienced with social media campaigning can join to this working group. So from this working group, we can prepare maybe very short, simple advices to
Yes.
other members so that they can utilize it and they can campaign much more easily.
This fantastic, yes,
And
good idea.
Also, Mikhail has a very huge library, I guess. I mean,
Yes, he said.
human versus machine
The
videos
code.
and also the codes, basic income codes, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I can schedule them for about 8 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
No, the thing is,
best practices maybe. Give a few best practices, because I think people that aren't full-time social media have some ways to multiply their impact without getting into automating and robots and so forth. And there's a certain reaction against those kinds of non-organic posts that people get turned off. I think that Claudia mentioned that.
Mm.
Yeah, as I said, you never can tell. Some people can wait for the automation because maybe they hate their job or they hate the condition of their job. Some people fear it like it's the end of the world. Or another simple reaction that I see is just plain deniable. Yes, automation will come, but people has to work.
Yeah, but I think just sit and wait for the automatization, I think is a very, very sad things, like waiting a Santa Claus, we have to do something, we have to work something.
Yeah.
Dear friends, I think automation is one side of the problem. There are too many sides.
Exactly.
But here in this case, we can use automation to promote basic income related ideas or materials. I mean, to disseminate the idea, disseminate the information. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be it may be a book of a friend, or it may be a discussion, panel discussion somewhere in the world. So we can promote this book or this panel discussion using this infrastructure. So, I mean, please, Claudia.
Yeah, I would like to say, I think a group could be interesting. I think the idea of making good practices that was mentioned by Peter is a good idea. The automated way of doing things, as he was saying, I think is the advanced thing that not everyone has to get into. If everyone could do like just sharing well, that'd be really good. And then we can add documents saying here's for the advanced. But I think, in my opinion, that the basic needs to be really well managed before going in the advanced. If you're not really aware of how you should be posting things on social media and you go automate it, maybe not the best way to go. So I think we should first do best practices in social media in general, and then add something for more advanced, another document for that. But I would be happy to participate in such a group at my own pace for now, because I'm a bit busy, but I'd be happy to share. It's the kind of thing that I do a little bit for a living. I do consulting on this, so I like to do it, but it does take time. So I can contribute.
It's great. I mean, it will be very beneficial to all our friends. Eva Maria, does this solve your problem too? I mean, I think such a group, good practices and experiences and maybe some procedures, how to use, etc.
Yes, I think, and I just wrote Michele that tomorrow we should talk about in our group too about this, and maybe only a few pictures or some memes, we can try how this works, just for a try. And then let's see if we can move on, but just don't overdo it,
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other contributions or questions? Oh, any welcome, by the way, I just saw you. And John Mills, welcome. Oh, Valeria is here, Diana is here. Oh, okay, I just saw the newcomers. So if you do not have any questions regarding Mikhail's presentation, okay, none. Thank you very much, Mikael. Very interesting issue and very useful.
Thank you very much. It's been a joy. I might have to leave shortly after. If that's the case, it's been a joy. See you next meeting.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
See you. I will watch the recording once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear friends, our next agenda item is a presentation by our dear friend Gerdur Palmadottir from Iceland, and her topic is UBI for Lebanon, United Nations Immediate Action. Dear Gerdur, okay, you are here. Please, the word is yours.
Can you mute it? Okay. See, now what is coming up, of course, like everybody knows that this is horrible happenings in Lebanon, which is only an addition to already existing disasters. So we really have to find a way how to participate in all this pain and try to change it. And the disaster in Lebanon needs immediate action to cope with the present desperate situation. It is obvious that implementing UBI in Lebanon at this moment will be a tremendous help and stimulation for the Lebanese people, and simultaneously show the world that universal basic income means what universal basic income means for societies worldwide. There is no government installed at this moment in Lebanon, but a new election might take place shortly, and besides that, it will most likely take a few months. The expectations for a government that people will put their trust in is not obvious. Actually, there is no expectations. Therefore, UBI has to be handled by independent organizations such as Red Cross or something in that direction. In Lebanon, there are strong grassroots movements, but I don't know who they are and who are the efficient ones. But I heard an interview on BBC with a Lebanese woman. She was expressing and admiring their selflessness, durability, and strength. And I put here a link with all kinds of organizations that we could take a look at, and maybe somebody will know some of them, or we could email or use those addresses for something in connection with this. But in order to accomplish implementation or rescue basic income for Lebanon, the United Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who has expressed his deep concern for the epidemic in inequality growing in the world, needs to be addressed in order to act immediately with emergency funds to finance a UBI justice pilot for a limited time, or at least 5 years. The UN has to take into consideration, as per Philip Alston's final report, that they have not nearly accomplished their main task of diminishing deprivation and inequality. UBI is UN's tool to reach their goal worldwide, and by supporting implementation of rescue basic income in Lebanon today, they will prove its value for the future to come. I was reading this, so now I turn into talking mode. Talking mode now, so we can discuss what I was trying to convey. Because I think that we have to do something, because, and also if talking about piloting, we're always talking about piloting. If anything will put light on the importance of UBI, it will be this kind of disasters that we can help. It is just painful to see what's happening all around the world. And then these society funds are asking for support from the general public all around the world, but the United Nations is not putting their hands on. The committees are delaying everything. Everything is in a committee, so it doesn't go on. So what would you think we could do?
Yeah, that's a bureaucracy.
Yes, but we are in contact with the United Nations. We sent them a letter, and they they approached us back. So maybe we can carry on in that direction, or write a special letter directly to the general, what is it called, general Secretary General. So because this has to be done openly.
Do we have any? I'm sorry, I don't know whose turn. Do we have any Lebanese advocates for UBI in our groups? Do we have any contact that could help us and ground us in our?
In Lebanon, no, I was looking for it, I couldn't find. But we could maybe, because of this groups, maybe we could approach them. Diana, you would try. There is a, if you go into chat, you can raise your hand.
Diana, please.
She raised already.
Diana, please. We can hear you.
Hi. Yes. Hi. Thanks, everyone. My research is actually focused on the Middle East, and I'm working on Iraq. I also, in my proposals, I had mentioned Lebanon. But in terms of the working groups, the working group working with the UN, as Guy and Hilde shared, we're now sort of in discussion with UNDP, which is the UN Development Program, which is leading the social policy response to COVID globally. And we started a discussion with them, and we're waiting for their reply on a few suggestions that the group offered. We could also, so once we hear back from them, we could also raise the point of Lebanon, actually, given the recent developments there, as a possible also entry point. This could be an entry point, actually. So I can happily raise this point back to the working group with Hilde and Sarah. And as I said, we've been waiting for a response back on a few points from UNDP on a proposals, on a few sort of engagement proposals we sent them. So we include the Lebanon part as part of our response once we hear back from them.
Thank you, Diana. Gerda, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Diana. I was thinking with the working group with the letters, is it accessible for us to follow up what you're doing and with whom you're talking, etc., etc.? Because I was also following the UNDP, and that is what I was looking for, Ali, and asking you for, because I wanted to, because they had a webinar, and which I wanted to discuss with you guys. But
Buonasera, sono Michele Gianella della Mega Weekend. So ho preso.
Oh.
Okay, I muted him.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway, I think that it would be very interesting for us to be able to kind of look into what is happening without having to bother too much. Because now we are going to wait for their reaction for this or that, and like for Lebanon, and it might be a long wait, we don't know. So if we want to take an initiative, we have to be able to do that at our chosen time. Maybe. Because I listened to the discussion at this webinar, and I was not very impressed. I thought it was very backwards and strange kind of or absent views of the problem.
Which webinar?
Sorry?
Which webinar?
The webinar, they had the UNDP, they had a webinar, they were discussing internal, and I listened to it, and then Paul sent us that is what I was asking you for.
Ah, you said OECD, not it should be.
Yeah, I know, I mixed the name of the, exactly.
So actually, UNDP is working quite actively, and their discussions and the webinars that Guy participated in they're pretty on point in terms of, you know, UBI and their understanding of it. And 2 weeks ago, they issued a report on, they call it temporary basic income. And basically they're showing what it would cost to have, you know, a global, to have a basic income in 132 countries. So the countries that are most in need, let's say. So they're actually quite on point. And the thing is, they work, it will be slow in terms of, let's say, you know, how fast we would want it. But it's also because they work directly with governments, which is an interesting entry point for us, because if they can convince also governments and policymakers that this is the way that we could proceed, it's an important entry. And it might take, you know, some time, but they're pretty on point, and it's quite interesting, the momentum they have. And in terms of UN, they're actually, in terms of UN standards, they're working pretty quick, I would say. So yeah, this is from my end.
Gadur, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, if we are talking about the UN standards, of course, they might be speeding, but I don't know that. But I think you said they are on point, but we are not all on the same point. That is why we need to discuss things, because I think I listened to this webinar, and they are, to my opinion, what we talked about before, they are far too reliant on corporation or employer link. Instead of,
you said it was OECD who the webinar you watched.
I'm talking about the UNDP.
Okay, I thought you said you. So which one? Which day?
I don't remember. That's why I was looking for it, because I listened to it, and then Paul sent us, I think, the copy of it, and then I had already listened to it, and now I'm looking for it because I thought it was very interesting, and I thought. And so maybe if they're online with it now, you know, but just like within, we are still discussing what it is and how it is linked and everything like that. So that is why I find it important that we can look into the discussions, because things are developing day by day. We are learning more about what everything is about. So that's why I also think like we are as a group connecting with all these projects, and it will be good to be able to follow it for curiosity and not necessarily involvement as such.
Yeah. So I can you want just to see the points that we suggested? Yes. Yeah, I would be happy to share it. Yeah, of course, I can ask Sarah to share it.
Or to give us access where you keep it like a doc.
Yeah, it's not a big. I mean, it's a few points, but yeah, we're happy to share. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's based on a first meeting we discussed, and it's basically 10 points on engagement. But yeah, we can of course share it with the group.
Which meetings, Diana?
UNDP.
So the working group number 1 is holding meetings at UNDP.
We held one meeting, yeah.
Okay, because we didn't hear anything after the signatures to the United Nations chair, and we don't know what's ongoing.
Yeah, there's no real outcome yet, but we can, you know, we're waiting for a reply from them. But we can share with the group the proposal that we sent them. It's like a 10-point proposal on how to engage, but we haven't heard back from them yet.
Dear John?
Yes, I was just thinking part of the I mean, I think it's fabulous that we are in close contact with UNDP and that avenue. But when you say it's not going to happen as fast as we might like, are we talking 2 months or 2 years? That's the problem with the UN that I, you know, intrinsically have is yes, it gets it done, but it gets it done a decade late.
Yeah. So you know, we're aware that, you know, we can start a pilot in basically 3 months. You know, that was what Guy said, Guy Standing. And we basically want to make clear to them that this is the momentum we're kind of looking into, and we're offering you know, expertise if they need it, and you know, if they're gonna drag their feet, you know, we all have, you know, other things to do. But we're basically, you know, saying that it's gonna, you don't need that long to implement something, and we're waiting to see from them. You know, we're just at the start of the beginning and at the start of the discussion, and although we might like it, but we can't just push them into anything. You know,
it's certainly something that on the ground action and voices being heard and made known is gonna hurt. I mean, the more influence that we can exert that way over the UN as well, just, you know, as local, regional, national groups, and make our voices heard, that's certainly not going to hurt.
Yeah, I think the pressure is on, you know, independent of us. So I think, and that's why they're actually, you know, their statements, be it from the Secretary General or the 3 op-eds that were written, and articles that were written by the Assistant Secretary General of the UNDP. So she's basically the second person after the administrator. Are pretty clear. You know, they're very clear in terms of basic income being the solution that needs to be implemented in response to the inequalities that were made apparent by COVID. You know, and the report that they issued, temporary basic income, is basically they're doing a simulation on what it would cost to implement basic income funded through 3 different types of ways. And if I can share the link to this report also in the chat now. So yeah, I mean, this is where we stand, and yeah.
Yeah.
I just a word of caution. I mean, Lebanon is one of the most complicated political systems in the world. I mean, talk about tribalism. I mean, it's religious tribalism institutionalized in the Constitution, and it is broken down. Now, whether the UN or anybody else can do anything about it, but it would be marvelous. But you have to have an implementing action. And everything is fractionated there. Everything is done. You want to deal with the Shia, you have to go through Hezbollah. You want to deal with the Sunnis, you go through one of the Red Crescent, maybe. You're going to do with the Maronites or the Druzes or all the other little Christian sects. It is an incredibly complex place to get anything done. Maybe the crisis would make it something to break through, but then there has to be some very powerful organization. If the UNDP were to say, well, where are they going to come with the funding to fund basic income in Lebanon when the whole place is broken down?
Not only that, it's you're absolutely right. Their banking system, you know, before this horrible explosion happened, their banking system is basically in shackles because they're not agreeing how to basically, people are not able, they are limited in terms of money they can take out per week. The banking system is in crisis, and the political leaders are not agreeing on whether to take the IMF proposals and the proposals of the international community, because basically they want to hoard everything, including the central bank, who's offering to buy the assets of the country to finance, you know, more debt. So the situation is really, really complex in Lebanon, and it's, you know, crisis after crisis that the country is faced with. Whether basic income is how it can be implemented is a different thing. You know, as we all say, it's always in terms of priorities. You can find the funding, you just need to set the priorities. But then again, you know, the government in Lebanon just resigned yesterday. it's going to be a caretaker government. I mean, there's, you know, a lot of issues to be considered in the country. But yeah, but at the same time, you know, social health situation is very, very bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear Claudia and Gerder, and yeah, these are two hands. Dear Claudia, please.
Okay, I just wanted to say real quick that you know, these kind of crises are sometimes the moment to do an art break into something. So yeah, it's worth trying to do something like what Gertrude is trying to convey us towards, and that's why I was talking about having some Lebanese advocates, because it's so much easier when you have people from the place. When you're from away and saying, oh, we want to do this for the place, it's so hard. So I can't believe that we can't find it. I mean, on another note, I have like a few Facebook groups that I'm following that are on UBI and that have a lot of African participants, which of course we're talking about Middle East and not Africa, but and they're very active. So, but it seems like we don't have any of them on our group, and it seems to be like a big divide of, you know. So I would like to understand why we don't have any people from maybe even Arabic background, or so yeah, that'd be maybe something that we should try to work towards. I don't know.
Gerder, before you, can I answer Claudia, or maybe after you? Okay, after you. Please, Gerder.
Okay, what I was firstly about Lebanon, I heard this lady on BBC, and she was a power lady. She was from Lebanon, and I want to find her, and I'm sure she knows these powerful people in those groups, but I'm useless at tracing her on BBC World. That's where the interview was. It was yesterday. So and she was just, you know, I could feel her in my living room, you know. She was so strong, and she knows these right people. And I think that if we can move mountains with UBI there, and we will prove to the world that this is our way. I see basic income as the only visible tool to change this corrupt world we are living in. And the corruption is not limited to Lebanon, that is for sure. I get here pleads from USA, from some charity, official charity group, to ask for money, when USA has a very big responsibility of the bloody bullshit that's happening all over the world. They are the biggest terrorist organization active. So I think that they should defund their military defense funds and finance, for example, what is happening in the countries that they have left in ruins. So that's just my opinion, and I'm sure that loads of people agree to me on that. And I was thinking, so if we find this lady, we can start with that. So now the hunt is on. We find her, and we find somebody there, and we find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So we can do it. And then we start. Then we take other countries. We take Gaza. We take Yemeni, and all these countries. We just change this. We can't do it. There's enough money. It's only the will that is missing. And Diana, what I was thinking with the meeting you had with the UNDP, I was actually waiting for that meeting. I knew that we were going to have a meeting, but I thought we were going to have the meeting. So you were the spokespersons, but I thought we would be invited to listen in. It's like they did with their seminar, with their webinar. We were all kind of listening in. We had nothing to say or nothing, but we had chat, we could ask. But the thing is that I think personally that if we have such important people to talk to, that we should all be able to follow it, to get it under our skin what's happening. Because the reporting on things, it's an additional work, and it is a report. And that is, you never can cope. You cannot copy the whole thing. So in general, I'm not talking necessarily to you, Diane, but in general, if we do have meetings like that with such important parties, it would be advisable, I think, to offer those interested to participate, just to listen in.
Thank you, Gerda. Dear Claudio, I would like to say a few things about UBI advocates from other continents, I mean, especially Africa and Far East. To tell the truth, we are trying to reach as many people as possible. And we also say that if you do have any connections, please invite them to these meetings. They are very beneficial, and I personally learning a lot. But the timing is important. GMT 1430 is fixed since 2 or more than 2 years. It was our dear friend Jenna Van Drennen from Canada. She started these Zoom-based meetings, but it was monthly and it was with very limited number of friends. But later on, after the COVID issue, on 7th of April, we said, okay, we need to interact or we need to communicate, and we had it for 2 months weekly, and since June, it's bi-weekly. The issue is they're all welcome. We are trying, in fact, maybe still we are sending invitation to them, at least the ones whose email addresses we do have. For example, from the India meeting, last year, the General Assembly of BN was in India. From that time, if we had received their emails, we are still sending them. We are sending the invitation to about 450 plus UBI advocates all around the world. But some of them are maybe not correct emails, but still maybe 350 are receiving these emails. So if you do have connections with our friends from the Africa area, it will be interesting. And also it might be very interesting to receive your support regarding working group number 53. In fact, Paul Harnett also mentioned that he has some connections in Uganda and Kenya, I guess. The UBI activities is very strong in these 2 countries.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, the point is, they're all very welcome. If you do have direct connections, please invite them directly to the email group, also to the meetings, and that's the situation. Dinah, would you like to add something?
I would like just to mention, in response to Gerda's comment, for others to be included. You know, I'm happy if it's for this, but it's just that I wonder how practical it would be, because the person from UNDP had to, you know, add us individually. But yeah, as I said, I will share. I will ask Sarat, or I can share like what we proposed. And then in terms of the comment from the other colleague, I missed your name. I am one Arabic speaker. I'm originally from Syria. So we do have at least one representative from the Arabic speaking world. And again, in terms of what relates to Lebanon, I can happily look into what kind of groups are active locally on basic income, and see, you know, whether we can make a link. I speak Arabic, so it could also be easier in this sense.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, thank you then. So we are finished with this agenda item 2. Dear friends, we already spent more than 90 minutes and we were targeting 90 minutes. Do you think we have some more time at least to discuss few issues?
No, I have to go.
You have to go?
Yes.
Okay, let's do like this. Is there anything urgent from any of you? Something urgent you would like to share? So we better continue in our next meeting. And in the meantime, we can communicate through email. One thing I would like to say is that please share the news reports or PDF files or some video recordings, whatever, through the email group so that all the friends can hear about this. This is one thing. And secondly, if you are not a member of the UBI advocates at googlegroups.com, please be a member so it will be easy to reach you. I mean, it will be easy to send invitations to you, because we are sending most of the invitations through the Google group, and the rest we are sending, let's say 15, 20 emails at one email. So it's quite difficult to handle it. Okay. Oh, John, would you like to say?
Don't forget to keep pushing Basic Income Week.
In fact, not only Basic Income Week, there are a lot of things to be discussed, but after 90 minutes, I feel that the concentration is not that strong.
That's too much, yeah.
Eric, what would you like to add something?
Yes, I would like to share just one picture with you. Can I share screen?
Sure, sure.
Just one picture, don't worry. If it works, I hope so. Let's see, just 1 minute. Do you see the picture?
No.
Not yet. Am I allowed to share screen?
Yes. You should press share screen, the green.
Yeah, just a minute.
And select the screen you would like to share.
Yeah, just a minute. That yes, I got it. I got it. Do you see the picture?
Now, yes.
Yeah, you see. That is, I think it was the second or the third meeting we had in June. I was recommending a book, and I want to show you now this picture, and then I learned how to share screen at the same time. This is the book I was mentioning, Sinking Like a Mountain, written by John Seed, who is from Hungarian background, Joanna Mercy, Pat Fleming, and Arne Nass, who is a Norwegian guy. This is what I was this is the only thing I wanted to share with you, because I want to learn it, how to share screen, you know. And this is a very good book, by the way. It's I mentioned it. It's about deep ecology. You remember it's about deep ecology, and it's quite important for us, especially at the moment. We have still this COVID-19 problems and so on. So if somebody is reading this book, and then he will better understand what is the problem at the moment. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Eva Maria, dear Eva Maria, I just
yes, thank you. I would like to ask, in the 6th point, you have working groups, and I would like to ask, in the future, you will separate the groups, and then you can work, or just in the special subject, or you want to keep it all together, because then I think it will take too long time.
They are all separate groups. For example, working group number 10 is regarding the Worldwide Basic Income Survey.
Yes.
I mean, Basic Income Worldwide Survey. And there are 2 surveys still being executed. And there were about 8 friends who are active. In working group number 24, it is an interesting issue, but we have still time. It is in November now. It was Eduardo Suplicy, and I proposed the working group, but Eduardo Suplicy gave the idea, and there are a few other friends. In working group number 51, it is Global Map of UBI Networks. Hannes Mehrer and Peter Knight and me, we are working on this map. And also we are receiving very interesting support from Luke. Yesterday, we had a long chat with him, Luke Gosselin. He's with us now. And regarding group number 52, it is just, it will just start.
Yes, I am interested in this one, and then it's better if we have only the group, because we will not take so much time, you know, to discuss it. Yeah.
I mean, in 52, what we need is we need to disseminate the survey as much as possible, as different countries as possible. In fact, it is triggered by our dear friend Claudia. And 53 is interesting. I just sent an email to the whole group. Maybe we can discuss in the coming meeting. And 54 is about the social media, web page, etc. And now 55 will come, I guess, with Michael and Claudia and the other friends who would like to contribute to the social media campaign. It will be very interesting, I guess. It will include the good practices, and it will share some experiences with maybe with simple procedures for ordinary Facebook or Twitter users, so it will be more easy for them to use this. Oh, Claudia, please, I just saw your hand.
Yeah, I would like to maybe give some tips to facilitate some of the communications. Like, it's good that you have a Facebook, not Facebook, but a Google group. But there are maybe other ways that we could make sure that we reach out, because this kind of conferencing is so interesting that I think it would be great if we could, make it so that, a few people can get to know about it and everything. So if possible, I'd like to discuss with you what is our online, like, maybe at another time, our online visibility.
Oh, we better do this, and maybe we can invite Mikhail too, and maybe a few more friends. And it will be very interesting to receive your contributions. I mean, after you said that you are also giving consultants in this field, I said, if I'm not mistaken,